Okay, so hi Arushi. I'm Roshni, and
Hi,
welcome to
Roshni.
welcome to our another session on building beyond the basics, that is building research paper and resume that stands out. And today I was having our session guest Arushi, that was also an ST at Adobe and currently speaker, mentor, and also doing great in research papers also. So as we know, we will take into critical skills that was the plainly on the side people, students and professionals also, that is writing effective research paper and creating a resume standout that will stand out. So it seems that worlds apart, but here's the secret that we are more connected than you might think. So whether you are a student creating for academic or a fresh graduate here, here for mark your job market, this skill will really help out you. Right, so let's start with the short intro with Arushi.
So, hi everyone, I'm Arushi Garg. I have recently graduated and I'm currently working as member of technical staff at Adobe. So, since we are here to discuss more about research papers, so talking about my that part where I have contributed. So, it was in my, I guess, second or third semester when I developed this interest in AIML, machine learning, deep learning, and I started building projects. So, as I was working on various projects, I realized that until and unless you get to understand what exactly researchers and workers have already done in this field, it is a bit difficult for anyone to just start from the scratch and start building projects. So in this way, I started reading. I more like started going through, started exploring various research papers, and there's how I got this interest of starting writing research papers. Like seeing a research paper published under your name on Google Scholar gave me immense pleasure, frankly speaking. You're on mute, Roshni.
Okay, so I'm asking when you thought of writing research paper in the semester or whatever from hearing from seniors or when you okay, we should write research paper on it.
Yes. Yeah, so like I'm from Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women, and I'm glad that in my college, research is something which is highly considered as a very good field, and and the teachers and the professors actually support students for doing more and more research, writing research papers. So I believe that my college also supported me and helped me to grow, especially my professor and my mentor. And apart from that, as I have already mentioned, that I was actually very interested in this field of AI/ML. So I just wanted to contribute extensively to this field, and I started working on the research papers.
That's great. So we start from the PPT if you don't mind. We can just
Yeah, yeah. I'll just start sharing my screen.
hello. Um, Hi Anushi, I think this MacBook issue your screen is not visible.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, And is my screen visible?
yeah, it is.
Okay. So, yeah, this is the same presentation I gave at DevFest, and I would like to share my insights along with that yet again. So, before just moving to research and research papers, if I just talk about myself, so as I just mentioned that I started working on various research papers in my second, third semester itself, and throughout my college, I have written 6 conference paper, and I was fortunate enough to get a journal paper accepted and published as well. And apart from that, I have been writing various articles to support new beginners who are just starting their journey in research paper writing. So I've written various articles and posted them on LinkedIn as well. So you can get more tips from there. So if we just start discussing, yeah,
What
Roshni.
are the basic necessities or requirement that a beginner should want if they want to write research paper, like within
Yeah,
resources?
I'll be covering that in the presentation.
Yeah, sure.
So if we just start by what exactly is a research paper with the term research, so research is nothing but just searching about something, just studying about something in very extensive manner, like intensive search with the purpose of becoming certain. And when we talk about research paper, then it's like we are proving a certain thesis statement. Thesis statement as in we have got a problem statement, or let's say we have got a fact that we study about, that we read about, and that we write about based on our research work or the project that we work on. And then the question that you asked, Roshni. So by writing a research paper, like why writing a research paper is important. So currently I'm working as a member of technical staff at Adobe, and before that I did internship at Adobe as well. So there I got to know that working on a project is one thing, and working on its documentation is yet another task. It's like once I have worked on a project, I have spent my weeks and my months coding and working. But then if I have to present that particular task or that particular project to someone, let's say my manager, so I have to write everything down. I have to document everything and then present. So I believe that writing research paper enhances written communication skills. It helps us to write what exactly we have implemented, right? And then next one is increasing knowledge on the subject, because writing finally the very it wasn't getting recorded before.
Mm, there might be an issue. Yeah, I'm audible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the recording was not being done before.
it is done. It is done. Actually, you can
It is. Oh, okay. So as I was mentioning about the resume boosting, so yeah. So when I was interviewing, I was being interviewed for let's say Adobe and many other companies, including Expedia, Amazon, Zynga. So in my resume, there were already 4 research papers published under my name, which actually gave me an edge over others because it shows that I have this thing of diving deep into the topics, reading about it, and then implementing, which actually helps you when you are in corporate because there nothing is already well defined. You have to read, and then work on the code or then implement. So yeah, so these are the 3 main benefits of writing research paper, okay, that I believe are good enough to convince any college student to start working on the research papers.
Yeah, and the most interesting part, if you know about the particular subject on which you want to write the research paper, so it depends. Like it is mandatory. Like you have knowledge of that particular, then you will write the research paper. It doesn't like you can't write the other domains if you know if you know not know well about that particular subject. So subjects also matter the most in writing research paper, as I say.
Until and unless I don't have a complete knowledge of that particular subject or that particular domain, I cannot write a research paper because
Yes.
research papers are extensive. Let's if we are talking about conference papers, so conference papers are of 5 to 6 pages, exceeding to 10, 12 pages. And if we talk about journal papers, so there's no limit to them. The journal paper of mine that got published was of 40, 45 pages long. So research papers are extensive. You have to write anything and everything. So for that, you should have a very strong and very in-depth knowledge about the domain. Uh, yeah, right. So moving towards how to take the first step. If you are a first year, second year college student, and you are wondering like how exactly we should start writing a research paper, so let's discuss about it. So first and the foremost is find your domain, find your niche, and have a very clear understanding of the topic that you want to choose. Right? Let's say my domain was AI/ML, and I found my niche in healthcare, and the particular topic that I chose was pulmonary nodules, that is lung cancer. So it seems like okay, just another type of cancer, but if you start reading about it and you start reading a specific thing like AI/ML in lung cancer, then only you will find thousands, 10,000s of research papers. So when you are talking about research, no topic is small, no topic is huge, but just a tip that I would like to give you is that any topic that you choose should be relevant in today's world and should solve certain problem. You can take any topic, you can take any field, healthcare or education or let's say startups or anything. You can research about anything and everything, but it should solve some problem or it should be relevant in today's world. Then only people will be interested in reading your research. Right. Then next part, whatever resources you'll read, whatever resources you'll cite in your research paper should be very much reliable, should be right, should be correct. Okay, you need to just filter all the resources, what you are going through, what you find are right, and if you find any ambiguity, just skip that particular paper, just skip that particular resource, because citing a wrong fact in your research paper could be very harmful. Okay. Then next is deciding a well-structured outline of the thesis. Like you should know what all you need to add in your research paper, what all you need to focus on, what parts should be small, what parts should be big. Because let's say if you are targeting IEEE conferences, so there the page limit is 4 to 6 pages, or somewhere it's 6 to 8 pages. So you cannot extend your paper beyond that. If we are going for Sprinter conferences, then there the page limit starts from 12 pages and it goes, I guess, around 20 pages. So you have to have a very good, well-structured outline of the thesis so that while writing the paper, you know how much time you need to spend on one particular section and how much on the other. Right. And lastly, I will say that dive deep into the resources. Try to pick between the lines. Try to pick a facts. Maybe the facts can be from the graphs as well or the visuals that people have added to the paper. So just go through the research papers very calmly and try to dive deep into it. So these
Okay.
are the 4 things. Yeah.
One of the
So
questions
these are, yeah, yeah, continue, Roshni.
I have been taught, most of the students don't know, they thought research paper, it might be we have lots of knowledge or we have that particular knowledge, then we can start writing research paper. But if they're initially going, so how we can start, one of my friends says, he has read the 74 to 75 research papers before writing a research paper. Then he figure
Yeah.
out, if he want to do it. So it is hard. So while writing,
Yeah.
reading research paper, what are the, how we can start, after I'm saying any research paper, it was like 4 to 6 pages to extracting and reading the main topics out. So,
Yeah. So let's say the very initial stage is deciding the topic. Okay. So when you're deciding the topic, reading research paper at that time is very important because you do not want to implement something that has already been implemented, right? So let's say you are working on certain topic and you are implementing the same thing that has already been implemented by a previous researcher. And like once you have already done everything, then you get to know that oh shit, this has already been done. So that's a complete waste of time, right? So before selecting the topic, it's important to just go through what are the topics, what all work has already been done. So before writing a research paper, you need to be a researcher, research what all can be done, what all problems are there, what all problem statements can be solved, or what all is relevant in today's world. Okay, and for that, you can go through various abstracts, you can read them because abstract is more like a face of the entire research paper. Abstract summarizes or briefs the entire research paper, right? So reading abstracts or reading conclusions like till where the researcher has already gone, and from there you need to continue working on it. So judiciously reading the papers is important, but yes, reading papers is most important because without that I don't feel that anything can happen. Once you start reading papers, once you start exploring the things, then only you yourself can start writing.
yeah. Okay.
And when we say that you need to write, you need, before writing a research paper, you need to read various research papers. So here are the places, here are the portals from where you can find free research papers online. Firstly, Google Scholar is the most famous portal where you can find every research paper, but many of them might be paid. So apart from that, you can find papers on Skyhub, Library Genesis, Science Open, and Directory of Open Access Journals, because most of the papers are paid. So most of the papers are paid on Google Scholars. So you can find free resources on the other portal as well. So once you are done with the topic, then how you're going to structure down your research paper. So these are the different sections. You have to start with the abstract, move to the introduction, literature review, methodology, continuing with the research discussion, finally the conclusion and references. So let's discuss about each and every section. So the first section is the abstract. So if we are talking about abstract, as I've just mentioned, that abstract is the face of your research paper. It's the it's the brief of your entire research paper. So just a fun tip I would like to add that always write an abstract once you are done with your research paper, because abstract is just a brief. You have to write lines, to one or two lines from every section and add it to the abstract, right? And as you have seen on Google Scholar, only abstract is mentioned, and based on the abstract, people decide if they want to buy or not that paper. As you all know, that papers are worth a few dollars. So after reading your abstract, people decide if they actually want to spend their money on your research paper or not.
Yeah,
So
so
introduction, yeah.
abstract is like similar to conclusion, or it is different, like as in part of conclusion also you mentioned like
No, no. So in conclusion, you do reiterate what is the problem statement, but in abstract, you need to mention like a one line from introduction, the problem statement, then one or two papers that you referred from the literature review, your one line methodology, two lines of result, like what were the, let's say if we are talking about machine learning, deep learning, so you need to mention about the accuracies or the losses that the model faced, right? And then in the discussion, from the discussion, you can pick one line where you are comparing your results with the existing results, with the existing state of art models. And finally, like the conclusion, that yes, this is the method, or this is the implementation that works the most finally. I hope I was clear.
yeah.
Yeah. So moving towards the introduction. So introduction is the first like the first primary section of your research paper, where you start by talking about the problem statement, or why that your particular topic is relevant in today's world, the problem statement, and your contributions, and why did you choose that topic. So these are the main four subtopics that need to be covered in the introduction. And you need, and one more thing, that you have to add the novelty. Novelty is a part of contribution, but you need to highlight it rightly, like why your research is novel, why your research is adding, why your research paper is adding to that particular domain or that particular field.
Yeah, basically
Then,
uniqueness.
yeah, novelty as in how your studies or your research is different from already existing work. Okay, so then we move to the literature review. So if we are talking about the literature review, there we are talking about what all work has already been done and what were the limitations that you might be working on during your research. But mostly it is more about what all work has already been done and what were their shortcomings that you might be working on. Then moving towards the methodology, there you can talk about let's say the libraries or the tech stacks that you have used in your project, in your research. Then what was the exact implementation that you did, or you can add the architecture of your model of your project, right? And yeah, I guess that is covered. And the entire methodology, the methodology should contain the entire implementation, what exactly you have done. Then moving towards the result, so result should contain the result table. um, so whenever we are working on some implementation, some project or some model, it's not like we go to the best result in the first go. There are multiple steps, the baby steps that we take. Let's say if we are talking about machine learning, deep learning model, so in the first go we'll get 60% accuracy, then we'll reach to 70% accuracy, then maybe 75, then 80. So in the result you need to mention what were the accuracies or what were the baby steps that you took, and what were the results from each of the baby step, right? Before writing the final result, or the final observations that you got from your implementation, right? So in the result you should add more visuals, including graphs or anything and everything that you need to mention, right? What all you can use to support your results. Then finally we move towards the discussion, mentioning how your implementation is better than the already existing work. So what's the exact difference between literature review and discussion is, in the literature review you have just reviewed the work that has already been done by the scholars and write the shortcomings, but then in the discussion you do compare why your work is better than the existing state of art model. And finally, in the conclusion, we reiterate the problem statement, and then we just write the concluding lines, the conclusion, the final implementation that we have done, along with the future scope. Because whatever we implement, it cannot be just 100% right. There must be some shortcomings, there must be some future work that you might be working, might or might not be working in future, but you are creating a scope for other scholars, other researchers to work on. So in the conclusion, it's very important to write the future scope. And finally, if we talk about the references, so throughout the paper, you give various references. You mention about since you are mentioning about the work of the people, of the work that has already been done. So you need to mention that, you need to give them the credit for their work, and you need to mention the name of their papers. The proper reference need to be given. How references are given? So let's say you open any research paper on Google Scholar, you will have that option of cite. So you need to give the proper citations. Let's say if we are talking about IEEE, or if we are talking about Google Scholar, so their APA citation is generally used, right? And if we are talking about journals, then BibTeX citations are generally used. So that is something that will be already mentioned in the rules of the conference that you are aiming to. But yeah, this is how the citations are given, or citations are mentioned, or this is how you cite a paper. So once you are just done with writing the research paper, your first draft is complete. So what's next? What do we need to do now?
Publish paper.
So yeah, but before like going for the publication directly, there are certain steps which are important between, like, first you are complete with the first draft, and before submitting your paper for publication, so you need to revisit your paper, you need to reread your paper and proofread your paper. Since the college students, they are very new to it, they are just a beginners, they might be writing their first research papers, so there might be certain technicalities that they won't be knowing. Research paper is a very 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 formal document, and if we are talking about research in technology, so it is a very technical paper. It should be, the language should be very technically sound. You should add only the technical words. You need not write any superlative words like best, worst, or my approach is the best. No, it's always you are technically comparing your implementation with the already existing work. So you need to just reread, proofread your paper. There should be no grammatical error. Everything should make sense and everything should be factual. You And if you are stating something, you need to support that statement. You need to support that particular thesis or the problem statement. And just examine the paper, give it a final touch. You can get connected to any of your professors because they might be having much more experience than you guys do. So you can connect to any mentor, any professor to get help. So that you can just give a finishing to your paper. You can just wrap up your paper the way it should be. And as I have just mentioning this throughout the paper, that throughout this presentation, that relevance and meaningful contribution is paramount in crafting a research paper. Whatever topic you choose, whatever facts or whatever statements that you write in your research paper should be relevant and should be meaningful, right? It should be right. You cannot just mention vague things. No, as I've already mentioned, research paper is a technical thing. It's not just a blog, it's not just an article, it's a research paper. So please write only meaningful things and try to make your contribution as novel, as meaningful as you can.
Yeah.
So now, as Roshni mentioned, that now it's time for thinking how we are going to present the paper at conferences or journals. So yeah, so when we are presenting our paper, once our paper is accepted, we need to go to the conference and present the paper, maybe in online mode, maybe in offline mode. So you are given a time limit of 10 to 15 minutes, wherein I guess 12 minutes are for presenting the paper and 3 to 4 minutes are for Q&A. So in those 12 minutes, you have to convince the conference chair why your research is novel, how your research paper is adding to the domain. So there also you need to present it through a presentation, through a PPT. So in the presentation, you just need to state the purpose, right? You have to focus on your problem statement, your results, and the conclusion, your novelty. You can give a small brief about the literature review, but that's not very important because literature review is nothing but talking about what work has already been done. But here we are more interested to know what work you have done, right? So you need to give a very brief of the literature review. Then we talk about the crux of the research. Talking about the crux of the research is that only the problem statement, the result, and the conclusion along with the future scope. And apart from that, you need to focus on the key points because while presenting, you need not just copy paste the entire. We can start.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we are done with writing the research paper, done with the first draft, and we have proofread it, like we have done complete thing. But now if we talk about the plagiarism means copying stuff from some other person's paper and adding it to your paper. So how can we avoid it? Because to get your paper published, it's a rule that the plagiarism must be less than 10%. If the plagiarism comes more than 10%, then your paper will be rejected. So to avoid getting plagiarism in your paper, the best practices are like spend ample amount of time in revising your paper. Make sure that you have given the right references, you have made the right citations, and whatever text you have taken from the other person's paper, what you have taken from the work that has already been done, try to paraphrase it, write it by supporting your own ideas. Okay, and conduct a plagiarism check. You can use various applications. My favorite is Turnitin because it's a paid software, but generally it is free for all the professors and academicians in a college. So you can maybe approach your professor or assistant professors to get the plagiarism check. Other than that, there are other softwares also, but um, Turnitin
I think the voice is breaking. Yeah.
was there some issue?
No, it's fine now.
Okay, so yeah, so we were on. Yeah. So once your first draft is complete, you just revise your paper, get some help from your seniors, and then prepare your final draft. Then you need to communicate your paper to some conference or the journal. And after communicating your paper, it might take 2 to 3 months to get the first um review or the notification from the conference about paper acceptance, or maybe it can be three scenarios. They have accepted your paper, then it's great. Second is they have accepted your paper but mentioned certain improvements. So it's like that you have to make certain changes, some small changes in your paper, and just submit your paper, and your paper is accepted. And the third case can be your paper has been rejected, and they might or might not send you some reviews. So once your paper is rejected, you need to revise your paper yet again and communicate it to a conference or the journal. But when you are communicating your paper to any conference, please do check the scope of the conference. There are conferences which cover only a certain field or a certain domain, and if your paper does not fit to any of the domain, they will just reject your paper without even reading. Okay, so finding the right conference is very important. So once your
Yeah.
paper is accepted, yeah, Roshni.
So I think like in most of the papers, two to three contributors are there, like they are contributing it
Hmm.
under the, that was also like count as a we have written on like it's journal kind of, or that was a different from that we are writing the our own research paper or we can
No,
contribute.
like research is something which is difficult to be done by a one single person. There can be four contributors, five contributors. So every contributor, every author is taken as same when you are writing a research paper.
Yeah.
Okay. So once your paper is accepted, then after a few months, there will be the conference where you have to go maybe online, offline, or hybrid, and present your paper through a presentation, through a PPT, and there will be a 3 to 4 minute Q&A round. And finally, your paper would be published in the annual magazine that will be published after the conference around 3 to 4 months again. So right from finding your topic to getting your paper published, it will take a year or even more. But once you get final acceptance, when you are at this stage, you can just calm down because your paper has been accepted. There are very, very, very less chances of your paper getting rejected during the paper presentation. It's just in the case if you do not present your paper gets rejected, or you just completely mess the entire thing, so your paper gets rejected. Else, there are very low chances of paper getting rejected during the paper presentation time. Once you get your paper acceptance, it means your paper will be published.
Mm.
So yeah, that was all from my end. It would be great if you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn and you can DM me all your doubts, anything that you wanted to ask and I didn't cover in my presentation. You can ask me. If you are looking for some help or contribution from my end, then also you can connect to me on LinkedIn. You can
Hello. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So one question that I might have think like while publishing any research paper, is there any like amount we have to pay for the publishing like in
Yeah. So once your paper gets accepted, you have to pay some amount. This amount can vary from 4,000 to 10,000, maybe 12,000 or even more. So like in my college, the amount was reimbursed. I don't know about other colleges, but generally the amount gets reimbursed when you are mentioning the name of your college in the authors list. For
okay.
that, you can discuss it with the professors or the teachers of your college. They might be knowing it well, but college generally fund the research paper fees, the
Yeah,
conference fees.
I triple as in my college. So I thought like is there any like we have taken the membership, so I thought is there any profit of while writing research paper? Maybe it's free
Yeah.
content. Like,
So no. If we are talking about IEEE membership, so you get some discount, like you get 1,000 or 1,500 rupees less that you need to pay. But it's not that like for IEEE members, it's completely free. No, it's not that case. But if you have IEEE membership, you do get access to many papers directly on Google Scholars.
yeah, the papers are I mean like I saw like most of the papers. So what are the platforms like you're currently exploring on which of the platforms like different platforms on which you have published or the mostly used platforms for the research purpose? Like I have to like explore mostly on that. I triple explore.
Yeah, for IEEE Explore, most of the papers are available. And if you do take IEEE membership, they regularly send you some magazines or articles to read about to enhance your knowledge. So that can be of great help too. Like I was also part of IEEE for 2 years. So yeah, they used to send great information on various engineering related topics.
Mm. And like your popular content is like I have applied for some scholarships in which there you ask like you have experience in research paper or some of might having the eligibility as research paper you have to publish or want to read and that sense like if anyone have not prepared so how we can like just like for example
Yeah, so I remember this my tax program also. So
it's like
they also support.
the scholarship that was but it was closed right now for the Indian expand which I thought might like
Uh, yeah, my tax. It did get closed this year. But when I was in college, like it was open. So there was a girl who was working in this field of AIML, and she had various journal papers published under her name, and she did get the scholarship. She did go to Canada for 2 months during her summer internship.
is there any
So
specific
there are many, many, many programs which support research. But for that, you need to have done some work before to show your.
I want to yeah hello yeah
Yeah.
So yeah, so one more question, like most of I have heard of the pirated research papers. So what about that? Like we have to consider that research papers, most of them are private and public. So uh,
Yeah, like as I have mentioned that the research papers are worth $13, but there are some portals where you will get research papers for free. Yeah, they might be pirated, but it's okay. Like you are just going through the resources. I know it's wrong, but since we are students, we cannot afford buying each and every research paper, right? So it's okay because information is not wrong. And when you are citing it, just make sure you are citing it from Google Scholar and not from any other portal. But if you are getting it for free from any other portal, then you can go for it.
and so you have like published on the Explore platform, the people conference and journals. Or
IEEE for yeah. So I guess 5 papers are on IEEE Explore, one is on Springer, and one journal paper is on Wiley. But all the papers are available on Google Scholar.
so till now, right now, if I'm about like if I want to start from the initial from beginner, so is there any pattern I should have to follow from the beginner? The resources like mostly
Yeah.
particularly white sessions. Like in a domain, if I talk like mostly I was also in IML domain. So as in that particular domain, I want to write any. So how where I can get topics on branding and how can start with that.
So if you talk about AIML, so AIML is a very, very large domain. You need to select some subdomain or subdomain and you just start reading about it. And once you get interested, then you can start exploring more and write research papers.
Yeah. How much time like writing is okay, like initially, if I
So,
want.
so like if you are talking about the first draft, and for writing your first draft, you have to read about 30, 50, or maybe 100 of research papers. So it will take its own time. And then writing the paper, revising your paper. So it takes months, like 2 to 3 months at an average.
Okay, so that.
Well, like research paper is one thing that actually needs a lot of patience. There can be chances that even after spending 2 to 3 months, your paper gets rejected. Then you need to revise your paper. You need to rework on your paper, and the acceptance or rejection doesn't come after like a week, within a week or in 2 to 3 days. It again takes months. So have to keep a lot of patience.
And one last question, like which platform you use to like write the like in Google Docs or in which
No,
platform?
I initially used to write in Google Docs, but then I realized that the alignment there was not that easy. And then
Is
as
there
I moved to yeah,
template available for writing all
yeah,
these
so I moved to Overleaf. So there I got various latex templates. So it's like that. If I just have to write the content, I'll write in the Google Docs because we all are very more familiar and comfortable with that. And then once you are done with the content, and now you have to make the entire structure of the research paper, then you can move to the latex templates. There you will find all the papers, all the templates. So you can just copy paste the content from there.
it is flexible like how many pages and like we can add in the pages and
Yeah,
also.
yeah, yeah.
So generally how many pages like we should be like
So
from
whatever conference you are targeting, let's say IEEE, so IEEE start accepting papers for 4 pages, 6 pages, 8 pages. If you're talking about Springer conference, they start accepting papers with at least 12 pages. And there are conferences which start accepting papers for 20 pages, but journals are extensive. They can vary from 20, 25, 30, 40 pages, 100 pages. So it completely depends on you, how much content you have, how much you want to write, and then you can target any conference based on it.
so journal and research papers more are like different or it's similar kind of most of. Yeah. So yeah, some questions like which journals and research papers are mostly familiar or both have different environments and formats.
If you're talking about the difference between conference and journal paper, right? That's what you're asking.
Yeah, like journal papers and
Yeah.
research.
So could you please repeat?
Journal papers and research papers. Like both are different.
Yeah, so journal paper and conference paper. Yeah, both are research papers, but conference paper and journal papers are two different things. Conference papers are short. Um, the length is less. Like they are 4 pages, 6 pages, 8 pages, 10, 12 pages. But journal papers are extensive. They start from 20, 30, 40 pages. They are more difficult to get accepted. And in conference paper, you write to the point things. In journal paper, you write the problems or the content in more detail. And journal paper literally took years to get accepted. Conference
Like
papers take months to get accepted. That's why I have got 6 conference paper and just one journal paper.
it is published.
Yeah.
It's nice talking with you. I am in currently third year, and like most of the students in nearby, no one knows like a student in third year was like research, but no one heard about it. And if I will go like if any student will go to the faculty, they will show up. Yeah, I don't want research, but then come with like nobody.
Faculties will surely help you if you actually have
But
interest
then
in
we
writing
have
research
to
papers.
professor or teacher. They have grown basically, particularly in that domain, in that knowledge that
Yeah, yeah, you need to select the right faculty for it. That supports your domain.
yeah. So thank you, Harshit. Like today's
Thank you.
session was really great. I was like really heavy, and so thank you so much
Yes,
for taking me. And would
thank
like
you.
to contribute if any like upcoming if you want to write or if any like opportunity you will give to me, I will definitely do it for.
Sure.
So thank
All
you.
the best. All the best. It was great interacting with you. Thank you.
Uh,
Bye.